Hi guys, and welcome to episode 30 of my Mortal Realms review series. This is Wargamer Wife, or Wargamer Long Suffering. This week we're going to be reviewing issue 30 of the Mortal Realms review series. When the first, this one comes with the Azerite Ruins, supposedly, which I'm going to get out. And when the first one came out, I was a bit confused because I bought the Azerite Ruins, and just to show you, this is the plastic that came with the first one, claiming to be part one of the Azerite Ruins, and these are the actual Azerite Ruins. They are not, yeah, showing all the bits. They are not the same thing. So what we're getting described on the front here as Azerite Ruin is actually the Azerite Shattered Plaza. So now I can actually figure out what it costs, but let's get into the plastic first. I mean, this, you can see, it's got some amazing detail in there. If anything, it's the Azerite Ruins, which are these ones, are good. The Shattered Plaza, which is this one and these ones, and looking at it, there's probably a third. Sprue that we're going to get down the line, are even better. So you know, that's a pretty, not complaining. Just confusing, like Azerite Ruin. It is technically an Azerite Ruin, but it's not the Azerite Ruins as you find them on GW's website. It is in fact the Azerite Shatter Plaster. Costs about £50. As I say, Sprue 1 we already got. That's Sprue 2, and there's a second floor which those are pretty. Some extra bits and pieces, which I assume are going to come in Sprue 3 in a future instalment. We can see some very nice detail, like these bent bits here. The details on it are very deep cut, so they're gonna be able to take a lot of paint and a lot of effects, and you'll be able to do a lot of things to them, which is nice. And the build itself, whilst you can see there's a little flex, so it's not rigid. It is, as you can see, very thick, so it's going to take a reasonable amount of knocking about, and it's going to be transportable, unlike some of GW's other earlier scenery, which was a lot thinner in its construction. For example, the Fortress of the Dark Angel Forces of Redemption, which is an amazing piece of scenery. The tower walls are actually very thin, so you've got to be quite careful if you try and transport it, because you could risk smashing a very good piece of scenery. The way me and my mate Matt did it was to fill the thing up with expander foam once. He built it, he painted it. We realised how delicate it was. Wrapped elastic bands around it, and expander foam the old one inside of it. Still 2 knobs. But this is very good. The Shattered Plaza comes in at about £50. Well, it comes in at £50 on GW's website. And it's multi-story, isn't it, as opposed to that room? It's 2-story. Yeah. So that's £16.66 recurring. So I just rounded out to £16.66. Per sprue, if it's 3 sprues, which means that you're getting more than double the cost of the magazine were. At a £7.99 or £8 magazine, you're getting 66 over double the cost of this magazine just in each sprue alone. So that's well worth the cost, and certainly balances out some of the paint editions. It's worth noting that occasionally you'll see me go, well, this particular magazine doesn't recomp you the cost of buying it. That's not because the magazines aren't worth it, and that and overall all the magazines very much are making a massive saving, good couple of £100. I just do that so that some people who are picking and choosing which magazines they're getting, and if you're lucky enough to have a store that's getting spares, you can do that. They can decide whether or not they want to spend their money on it, or whether or not they just want to get those paints separately if they need those paints. Okay, so you looking forward to putting that together? Oh God, yes. Okay. Especially knowing that there's going to be even more of this coming. Signed by obviously Ian there, our hidden architect of fate. let's dive in on page 1. We've got the Stormcast Eternals, 1,000 Storms, part 5. It's again, it's more about the universe and what's happening, the necroquakes and things like that one. We've got the. I'm just going to read the blurb here. Jealous and wrathful, Nagash Sorry, I can't even read that. Unleashes the greatest spell he has ever worked, forever changing the nature of Shyish, and unleashing a tide of spirits across the mortal realms. Meanwhile, the rise of the Age of Sigmar draws the isolationist Ideneth Deepkin, or Ideneth Deepkin, I don't know, into the wars against chaos, and cities in every realm face renewed aggression from the enemies of order. It's got another little blurb. The waves on death released by the necroquake ripple out across the mortal realms. In the city of Glimsforge, the anvils of Heldenhammer fight to hold back the Nighthaunt. So it's got a lot of stuff there. It's got a bit on the Ideneth Deepkin. I like the Ideneth Deepkin particularly because, like the Stormcasts, they're one of the realms that are new, almost entirely new to the Age of Sigmar. They're basically Sea Elves. Now, while Sea Elves did exist in the fantasy realms, they were more like sailors and pirates and things like that. These guys are far more. These guys are like Aquaman with pointy ears and no Jason Momoa.
That was too quick. I don't think anybody saw that.
It goes on. It also describes the Necroquake, the Ideneth or Edeneth Alliance. I'm just going to read the blurb here. Do you want to read the Ideneth blurb? Just read some of that. See if you like any of that.
See if I can read.
See if you can read.
Ideneth or Ideneth then?
I've no idea.
The Ideneth Deepkin are a race of elves?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's an old on your spelling, is that?
Oh yeah, they changed the spelling of elves to copyright it. It's no longer elves, it's elves or elves. I've no idea. It's still
How
elves.
special. The Ideneth Deepkin are a race of elves that dwell in the depths of the mortal realm's oceans. Many of them are born with withered souls, so they must capture the souls of other creatures to survive. They band together in groups called enclaves, each with its own culture. They often raid mortal communities and are feared. Many Ideneth have joined the fight against chaos.
They are part of the forces of order. One of the things that happened to the elves is that they lost the ability to generate their own souls. Or their souls end up being, tainted in that. Part of that, they think, is because the elves were heavily responsible and are still responsible for locking up Slanesh, the god of strangle wanking. This one's torn as well, let's see. And so they think that's damaged their souls. The Edeneth found a way to get souls, and that's, they steal the souls of others, and they steal some of the souls that were, I believe they stole some of the souls that were heading towards Slanesh. And and they recovered a lot of the, some of their heroes had been eaten by Slanesh, so they recovered some of them. But they basically steal souls from other races to repair their own souls. So they've got souls, so they're a little bit insidious, but they're still elves, they're still part of the forces of order. So they're still the good guys, but one of the reasons they hid in the deep is because what they're doing is dodgy, and if a lot of the other races knew fully, they probably wouldn't support it so much. Nagash particularly doesn't like the Ideneth because he considers the souls that they steal to be his property, because he considers everything he can see to be his property, regardless of any of the actual truth of the matter. So the combination of those things is why the Ideneth stay isolated under the sea, and don't deal with other races too much, to basically sort of keep that from becoming common knowledge. But they are still elves with the souls of elves. They are still primarily creatures of order, so they do turn up and they fight, and in the wars they harvest souls in the way that they do, and then they go back underwater. On the plus side, they have a ton of big fish, so that's cool. Go to the
And
next
what looks like
page.
war eels.
Yeah, I think that is a war
A
eel.
war eel.
They also have war sharks and like manta rays and things like that.
I want a war manta ray. That sounds cool.
They are cool to paint. It then goes over to cover the Green Tide Rising, the Battle of Greenford, and the Lord Nihilat. There's also a bit on the Stolfen Tribe. The Stolfen Tribe are a corn blood-bound war horde who trace their origin to Gur, the realm of beasts. They honour the blood god by striking their heads from their enemies and leaving mountains of headless corpses in their wake. They are led by a mighty warlord known as Skardrax the Slayer, because, you know, that works. Cool, it's 10. Get a bit sticky. A couple of tears. See that? Yeah. See a hole.
Sif, stop standing on Roxy's head with your belly.
Yeah, this one is, again, it's sort of like laid out as a kind of little bit of a timeline there, so you can read stuff. Next, my boy Zench, or Zinch, or Zench, or whatever the heck you want to pronounce it. The good thing about Zench is you can change it anytime you want, he doesn't mind. Zench tends to be my favourite of the Chaos Gods. If I'm doing stuff with the Chaos Gods, it tends to be Zench just because he's the best. Although sometimes I change my mind. Sorceress, deceitful and manipulative, Zench is the Chaos God of Change. He prides himself upon his ability to manipulate the strands of fate, tempting mortals to his worship with the promises of limitless arcane power.
But he is not a Dalek.
Stop it. His followers are everywhere, hiding in the shadows, working to advance his endless plans. Yeah, Zench is awesome. Zench is the best Chaos God. Mostly because, you know, Chaos cults, sometimes they're kind of Slanesh things, sometimes they're Nurgle things, sometimes they're even Khorne things, but mostly they're Zench things. Cults are his thing, plans are his thing, manipulation is his thing. He's really one of the Chaos, he's really the Chaos God that keeps everything else going. He's the one with plans. If somebody needs to guide Khorne to a strike point, it's Zench that'll tend to be the one that tricks him into it, because that's what Zench does. And if you like magic, if you like treachery, if you like more civilized and refined murder, Zench is probably your guy, or girl, or anything in between.
Entity.
Well, Zench, I think we're pretty sure Zench is non-binary at this point. As gods go, he's one of the most likely to give you power, but also one of the most likely to take it away. He's changing things all the time, to the point where he's just as likely to deliberately cause one of his champions to fall as he is to deliberately raise them up. A, because it's in his nature, he's got to change, and B, because he's the guy who has plans within plans within plans. You know, and I sometimes think the only reason he hasn't beaten the other Chaos Gods is because that's not his plan. Zench is Zench can't, you know, is the god of change. He can't just continually go one way. And if he were to win and become the ultimate god and beat all the other gods, that would be a static situation, which would be abhorrent to the god of change. Kind of makes him his worst enemy in the way that Khorne's over-destructiveness can make him his worst enemy. You know, Slanesh gets distracted by whatever he's fondling at the time, and Nurgle's too interested in rot to build anything that lasts too long. You know, each of the Chaos Gods, yeah, there's pretty much a reason why they're not the top dog, and it's usually them.
Max.
Yeah, it's usually themselves.
Go on.
Sometimes it's bouncing. Sometimes bouncing causes problems for the Chaos Gods, and they just bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce.
Children are Chaos Gods.
Okay. Max, front room.
Go boo with the other Chaos Gods.
Right. It goes on to describe the changer of ways, how he's obsessed with the process of change. It goes on to describe him as the master of magic, and also goes on to describe his demonic rivalry with Nurgle, each god kind of has an opposite and a main rival. Tzeentch's kind of opposite is Khorne, because Khorne is static, constantly war. And his main rival is Nurgle, because Nurgle is, again, Nurgle can be static. He tends to be, Nurgle's the one he hates the most, because Nurgle is very much the downward spiral. That being said, Tzeentch is the one that Khorne hates the most, and it goes round and round. But yeah, Tzeentch despises Nurgle above all. Tzeentch encourages hope and ambition in his followers and demands change. Nurgle requires resigned despair and willingness to accept things as they are, which is ironic. Nurgle has change in him as well, but you know, it's a different thing. However dull and terrible they may be, Tzeentch delights in carefully laid plans. Nurgle seeks the decay of such great works. Tzeentch loves Nurgle's campaigns of destruction. The two gods embrace any opportunity to match forces against one another. They're emotionally very much opposites. Although there is a little bit of Tzeentch in Nurgle, as there is a little bit of Tzeentch in Khorne and a little bit of Tzeentch in Slaanesh, and vice versa.
The chaos that's in them all?
Yes and no. Each one there's a crossover point. Each one's a point of the chaos, and if it were just the chaos and all, there's a bloke called Malal who used to be the top dog in chaos, but isn't anymore. Next, we've got
Matt,
the Labyrinth, Witchfire, and Warp Flame.
No, Maxie, stop it, please.
And it's basically like a nice mini story here to get you to explain magic and how some of that magic works within the world there. What do you think? Pretty cool.
Definitely.
I am going to be trying to get some games with the wife at some point. Hopefully we'll get to record them, but right now I need to create a battle surface because one of my dogs ate the one that we're supposed to be, the Gearan one I'm supposed to be using now.
I wonder which dog I could have.
And I'm doing lots of extra training at work, so it's taking up a lot of my time. But it goes... It describes sort of Witchfire and Warflame. It's describing some of the magic and the Labyrinth, the Silver Tower. It's also giving you the Herald of Tzeentch. Heralds of Tzeentch are demonic leaders. They can summon magical fire and release their enemies to bubbling pools of mutated sludge.
Yeah.
They're basically sort of battle commanders. And then you've got the Exalted Flamers, monstrous demons vomit forth flaming gouts of magical warfare. Tzeentch tends to have, like most of the Chaos Gods, Tzeentch has four main forces and a few specialised, four main things and a few specialised bits. He's got, however, some of his fold into the other. He's got his horrors, which are pink, blue, and ember. Yeah, little brimstone horrors. That's the one. It's basically you kill a pink, you get a blue. You kill a blue, you get two embers. They divide up. So those are his infantry max. If you're going to do that, you can go sit on the naughty step and do it. He's got his flamers, which are kind of like his sort of beasts or his animal things. They bounce around on a giant fungal foot, setting fire to things. He's got his discs, which are both his sort of beasts, which are both sort of his direct kind of animal things as well. But they're also his cavalry mounts for his guys. So you can see, for example, if you compare him to Nurgle, and obviously he has his greater demons as well. And if you compare him to Nurgle, again, it doesn't quite fit, but they were originally designed kind of with the same idea that each get one of each. It's drifted now, but Nurgle gets his greater demons, as does Tzeentch. Nurgle gets his sort of mid-rank demons, which are equivalent to either the Flamers or the Pink Horrors. Nurgle gets the Nurglings. Tzeentch gets the discs, and in both cases the Nurglings are kind of an animal force, but they can be they can hold the palanquins as well. Whereas the discs can be animals, but they can also be ridden. But also the discs also equivalent to the beast of Zench as well. Yeah, and the Nurglings are also equivalent to, like for example, the blue horrors, which are the small horrors, and the brimstone horrors, which just battle and dance around. So there's kind of parallels to be drawn. And when they first came out, it was literally each one had a stamped copy with some slight variants. But now they're getting more and more cool stuff. Next, we've got how to build the Azerite Ruins. Important to read the clip of safety bit, as my wife, you can see, hasn't. She's nearly taking the eye out. One slip and we could lose an arm. So
don't need the clippers are big enough for that.
Fairly, I know it's a joke. Fairly straightforward its constructions. Then we've got painting of the Azerite Ruin. For this, it advises you want Corax White, Lead Belcher, Dryad Bark as your base paint, Stormhost Silver and Baneblade Brown as your layer paint, and Agrax Earthshade and Non-Oil as your shades or skill in a bottle. So that's going fairly straightforward. You're base coating it, then it's suggesting that you wash over the white, which will give it a kind of a washed stone look. Then you've got your silver, and again, you washes over that. And that should, and then, yeah, so we've been working that, and then you've got the wood. And that should give you a fairly cool looking, a very cool looking set of ruins, which will go with the set of ruins that you already have.
What?
I'm looking at these and thinking, did I build these right?
I built these. And that's that.
Yeah. Oh, I can see there's a bit sticking out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was looking at the bit, but I couldn't quite see in the picture because it's very So questioning her building, so she's angry now. She'll beat me later. Which Anna will either follow or completely ignore, same as everybody else. Ooh, now we have the core rules. So we started off on getting the actual core rules. We've got 2 pages of core rules here, which we'll want to take off and probably store in a separate binder, just because these are going to be your core rules to reference to, and you don't want to have to jump through each episode. Or if you've got, depending how you've divided the binders up, you probably don't have to like flip through all the original examples. These ones, probably want their own binder, because that way you can reference them quickly and easily. You might even want to consider getting some of the A4 plastic sheaths, just so that you can flick them back and forth without damaging them. So these ones are describing. Oh no, there's another set of rules for core rules. Yep. Fantastic. And this is covering battle plans, war scrolls, armies, and units. As you'd expect for the first few pages, they're describing tools of war, how to roll a d3, re-rolls, roll-offs, and the like, and then it goes on for battlefields, and then it starts off with battle begins, set up an army, choose a general, and then it's got things like measuring distances, how you do that, reserves, and keywords, all of which you should be familiar with by now, because they've already been using them in bits, and they're kind of drip feeding you the rules. Whereas these one, this will give you an actual core rule set. Fingers crossed they don't do what they just did to 9th, which is, just did to 40k, which is change the rules. And they changed the rules literally, I think it's just a few months after the 40k version of this had finished. And it was like, oh, I've got all these rules, I've sorted them all out, and I need to know a new set. Fortunately, the new rules for the 40k aren't that different, so it's not so bad.
Just enough to make people buy a new rule book.
Yeah, but they've got to make money, and plus 8th Ed was so different that they did need to go through and look at rule fixes and balancing. Not sure they managed it, but they needed to do it. Then it covers movement and enemy units and retreating moves, and shows you an example of those. And it covers special movement, such as running units and flying, and it shows you some examples of those either as well. Next, we've got the Cursed City. Do you want to read that bit? You can read. You might have to put on the voice, I don't know. You know. Shall I clip this week?
No.
Okay.
Don't do my clipping for me. What am I reading? The whole thing about the coast city or the battlefield terrain part?
The Cursed City, obviously, that's just the general story bit. It's a general story bit. They give it to make you go woohoo and want to play the battle.
Okay.
Try and catch your imagination.
Okay, fair enough. Right, battlefield terrain. Three-dimensional terrain pieces can bring the battlefield to life. They also provide an extra tactical element to your game, as models can hide behind. You can't hide behind that, dear. Move over and move around them. Don't move over it. Look at the map below to see where the places. Look at the map below to see where to place your new terrain. They've got a little map with their drawings of where to place them.
The map itself actually has the terrain drawn on it,
Yeah.
so you just stick the terrain on
Like
the
you said in
terrain.
the last one, yeah.
So that's fairly easy. I need to now create something of roughly similar size to this for us to play on, because I don't have it anymore. Oh no, it wasn't the dog that destroyed it. The dog destroyed some 40k scenery things ages ago. That was the one where it got stuck to sticky tape and it tore when I tried to pull it off.
That was a
That wasn't the
paper
dog's fault. That was my fault. Oh no, the paper ones are quite good. They're really solid. I mean, if we could afford to have them laminated so they lasted forever, I totally would. There we go. Battle Plan: The Haunted Ruin. Let's see how this one goes. Lay out your battle mat, gather your dice and range rulers, make sure you have the reference sheet 1. Choose who will be the Stormcast player, the Nighthorn player, then follow the setup instructions. The armies you're using in this one are the Briar Queen, the Thorns of the Briar Queen, 4 Grimghast Reapers, a Lord Executioner, and 9 Glaive Wraiths. So that's actually not too massive a force because you're using a lot of character heavy stuff there. Still obviously bigger than the Stormcast force, but not too much. The Stormcast are bringing Xandria Azure Bolt, 3 Evocators, 9 Liberators, and 3 Castigators. So that should be good. You're setting up the terrain as shown, so that's all good. The Nighthorns and Stormcast are setting up wholly within their territory. So again, the Stormcast have the one that's covered in lightning, the Nighthorns have the one that's covered in skulls.
Pretty. Oh, why has it gone dark?
Well, don't worry about that, that doesn't matter. And the first turn is taken by the Stormcast Eternal player. In the first battle round, follow the instructions on sheet 1 as always. And yet again, this one is going for total annihilation or glorious victory. Which means, once you've killed everyone on the board, whoever's dead loses, and whoever isn't dead wins.
Win.
Again, we've always got the back telling you to go and to reach out and check out the community, which is amazing because they will. Right, next week is a great week for me because, as you can see, we have got the Lord Exorcist, who's a fantastic model. Issue 31 will be covering the Lord Exorcist, obviously. Don't stab me! Jesus Christ! She fucking stabs me. Don't fucking do this by my model! Don't do that. Magic in the Mortal Realms and setup of objective tutorial, so that's pretty cool. Following that, in issue 32, we've got the Citadel of Skulls. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but given that there's a lot of skulls and a picture of even more skulls in the background, I'm wondering if that might be the big pack of skulls that GW sells, where it's just a big sort of A4 size almost pack of just a ton of plastic skulls, because...
So they all have to be de-sprued and filed, because they're all going to have lots of little burrs on them.
Yep, but it's just a ton of skulls, so...
Winter boredom.
People, frankly, it's a reaction. People always used to joke that GW added skulls to everything, and they're obsessed with skulls. Yep. So GW said, "Do you want more skulls?" and bought out a skull pack, and people went, "Hell yeah, we want more skulls." And
We said they had lots of skulls. We didn't say it was a bad thing.
Issue 32 is going to be covering the Citadel Skulls, how to paint your model bases, and the core rules attacking. So that's going to be pretty cool as well. That's it for this episode. It's bye-bye from me. It's bye-bye from her.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you in a week.